Well, thank you so much, Dr. Glenn Hall. You taught us so much about quantum computing in such a short space of time. So now it's time to dive even deeper. It's panel time. So can I please invite Ryan Keenan, Dr. Glenn Hall again to the stage, and then Holly Toner. This is your chance to ask them any questions. So make sure to scan the QR code to get to AHA slides. And while your questions are coming in, I'll kick off with a couple of my own to start off with. So, yeah. Danielle. Yeah. So I guess to kick off the panel then, we've already heard from Ryan and Glenn. So Holly, can you tell us a bit about your background and your career?
Yes, lovely to be here. I'm Holly Toner. I am AI ethics tech lead at Kionos. You're probably thinking, what is that? I think it most days myself. Basically, my job kind of has two parts. So first off, when our customers in Kionos want to build a solution that involves AI, I will go in and have a good chat with them and help them to understand the risks that are involved. So if we're going to build this AI solution, whatever it may be, who does it have the potential to impact? What good is it going to do for them? What harm could it do to them? And then once we come up with those risks and the potential harms, then I swap over to the other side of my job. My background is more technical. Like Glenn, I come from a maths background. I've been a software engineer and an AI engineer. So I'll put that technical hat back on. Excuse me. Put that technical hat back on and think about those risks and how we're going to fix them with data science techniques and AI engineering.
Thank you, Holly. And I guess I have a quick question for you, Glenn, after your talk. So I guess for those people that still wrapping their heads around quantum computing, can you paint a picture of one major problem that might cause in the next 10 to 15 years?
A problem that quantum computing might cause? Well, the problems, I don't know about causing a problem, but there's a problem with building a quantum computer. And I suppose a problem would be dedicating resources to building quantum. I mean, there's lots of different attempts to build quantum computers out there at the minute. And, well, I think the country that succeeds first, there's a risk that they could misuse it, I suppose. There's dangers to encryption algorithms. You know, Shor's algorithm that factorizes large numbers poses a risk to lots of encryption algorithms, and that can be obviously used for sort of bad purposes, and that's why we've got the field of post-quantum cryptography to get prepared for the day that quantum computing appears. So, yeah, it's just the suddenness of it. If you know, when quantum computing does appear on the scene, it's just the unknown, really. You know, which country has developed it, and are they going to be willing to share that power, or are they going to run away with it?
How far in the future do you think that is? Sorry.
Well, everybody's been saying 10 years for you know, for about the past 20 years. I think in the past few years, people have been saying sort of, you know, by 2030, you know, they're becoming a lot more optimistic and coming on in leaps and bounds. So I think the amount of money that's invested in it now, there's no going back, and it probably will become a reality, you know, in the near future.
Thank you. Do we have any questions coming in, or yeah? So we have indeed. So let me see. Yes, so we have one from Benjamin. Thank you, Benjamin. How will AI, so I'll probably pass this on to you then, Ryan. How will AI affect future education?
Yeah, well, I think that maybe just looking at the past of education, so there was kind of a past some decades ago when the only way to get an education was to be educated by another human in person, in classroom, or through some kind of mentorship. And with online learning in the last couple of decades, it's become possible to learn a lot of things online, but it's not the same as being in a classroom. It's not like some replacement for in-person learning. I think that with AI, the future looks really interesting because I think that the opportunity we have where I work, for example, we're thinking about how might we build such a future and how might we do something cool with AI that allows us to transform what's possible, particularly with online education. And I think what becomes possible is having a personalized teacher for everyone on the planet, really. And so it's not a human teacher, it's an AI teacher. It's not a replacement for a human teacher, but just like online education has made it possible to learn, wherever you are, whenever time of day you want to learn, having AI involved in the system, kind of like what I was demoing up there, you can just keep asking questions. You can take yourself on the learning journey that you want to go on. And that's already kind of possible with just using a chatbot. But building that into education systems where over time that AI teacher learns more about you, knows where you're at, knows how you learn well, I think it becomes possible to have something like a personal tutor for whatever you want to learn.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping for.
It's kind of access to knowledge, isn't it? And we saw that already with Google and like the amount of information on the internet anyway. But AI is making finding that knowledge so much easier, and as you say, personalizing it to your needs. I wonder on the flip side of that though, like in terms of education, AI is not giving us the emotional side and the pastoral care, and so we'll still need the human aspect of that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good analogy, and maybe it's like when the internet arrived, everyone thought, okay, great, all the information in the world can be put on the internet. You can just find whatever you need, no more need for whatever education of some sort. But it turns out the internet's very hard to navigate, it's full of garbage, and so it's not easy to get an education just surfing the internet. And so online education is kind of a step in the right direction, and like somebody took time to organize a piece of information so that you can access it and learn something maybe in a way that's useful to you. But it just, yeah, like you said, it takes a step further in that direction of making it a personalized experience that is organized in a way that, I think one of the things is it's going to be more efficient to learn. You don't need to stumble through stuff that doesn't make sense or not be able to ask follow-up questions in an online learning environment. So.
Yeah, for sure. Even when I was at university, it took me a lot of time to try and find the information I was finding, whereas now you can just find it so quickly. It saved a lot of time. Anyway, so thank you both so much for that. And Holly, thank you for your question that just came in. Will AI replace the need for humans in particular jobs? What would be the ethical implications of this be? So who could we ask for this? Anyone want to jump in for this one?
I can give it a go, but I think we probably all
Yeah.
have opinions on it. I think we're hearing a lot of AI won't take your job, but someone who can use AI well might. And I think that's fairly accurate. I think jobs of the future will be much more flexible. They'll be about your skills to continuously learn and adapt your skills, rather than learning one thing and doing that continuously for the rest of your life. I don't think any of us really enjoy super repetitive tasks. And I think those are the things that AI is best at. So we'll see those evolve, and our jobs evolve with them. In terms of ethical implications, I worry a little bit in that sense that if we take away all those repetitive tasks that definitely are boring and we might not be enjoying them, but they're kind of easy and relaxing for our brains, and we fill up all of our time with really thought-heavy, intense work. 'Cause creativity is actually really tiring. If we fill up all our time with that and don't give ourselves enough rest and recovery time, then we'll see a rise in burnout maybe. So I'm curious of, as AI makes us more efficient over the next few years, what do we do with those efficiency gains, and how do we give back to our teams? Do we maybe go to a 4-day working week? That would be lovely.
Yeah, I would just say something that, to your comment, I think that's what a lot of people are saying, is that AI is mostly making tasks more efficient. And so when it comes to replacing an entire role, at least in most cases, probably the answer is no, AI is not going to replace that role, but someone using AI in that role will replace somebody who's not. But there are some scary projections out there, like, for example, a chart that I showed yesterday says that in the next 50 to 60 years, almost all of the human hours worked today will be automated. And so what do you do with a thought like that? What the heck are we all going to be doing if everything gets automated? At least one way in which I find an optimistic analogy for that is if you think back to when everybody was farming 150 years ago or something, not everybody, but most people were involved in farming, and that was because that was what you needed to do to put food on the table, literally. If you told somebody then that in the next 100 years, all of the activity of farming is going to be essentially automated such that one human can do what it took 1,000 humans to do before, that would be kind of equally alarming, like what the heck are we all going to do if we're not farming, right? So nobody knows, but it's an interesting way in which we will move on to other things, and our creativity will be our only limitation.
I think I remember reading one time that when spreadsheets were introduced, accountants were very worried that they were going to face job losses, but actually the field of accountancy exploded after the introduction of spreadsheets. So it may not go the way that is currently predicted. It's hard to know.
Sure, no, thank you all so much. And Precious asks, I guess this is kind of a follow-up question, but what jobs are currently being created for the new generation, do you think? Holly, do you want to take that?
I think my job didn't exist maybe 2 years ago. The explosion of AI has excited a lot of people, but scared a lot of people as well. And so we really need to grow our capability in making sure the things that we build are the right things to build and built in the right way so that they are fair across different demographics, and that we're really transparent about where AI is being used. So there'll be lots of jobs in the future of helping people to understand those problems and fix them so that we use AI in the right way.
And I think it's fair to say that coding as a task, maybe it's not so much as a new role because programmers, software engineers already exist, but coding as a task, as part of any job, is likely to be something that's much more prevalent in the future. So if it's hard to predict like a new job that doesn't exist today, simply because we don't know what that would be maybe, my prediction would be that coding or basic coding skills and basic AI and data literacy will become part of more roles. In fact, maybe the majority of roles. So whatever you're doing, there's a likelihood that using a little bit of coding, a little bit of building, particularly with tools that make it a lot easier, is going to put you in a position of advantage in a lot of different roles.
Yeah, for sure, and getting that understanding. Okay, so Michael asked, okay, so what do you think is the most lucrative subsidiary of AI for students to get into? Sorry.
So let me say one thing. I think probably the most lucrative one is also one of the most inspiring, which may be advertising. So if you're really into money or investment banking, maybe, I don't know.
Not academia anyway. I would, in quantum computing, I've seen, JP Morgan, for example, made headlines because they were aggressively, it was described as recruiting people with PhDs in quantum computing. And they were offering salaries of between $200,000 and $300,000. So, that's quite lucrative.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. And Cormac, I guess is kind of similar to the last question, but so Reese, we're run from Ryan here. Sorry about that. What do you think the potential of quantum computing is, such as breakthroughs in technology like supersonic travel and scientific breakthroughs like black holes and interstellar space? So Glenn, that one's to you.
Goodness. Well, supersonic travel. So I mentioned superpositions and I mentioned interference. The other strange quantum property is entanglement, which is actually is what John Bell was focused on. And entanglement enables something called quantum teleportation. So you might have heard of teleportation, one thing going from one place to another instantaneously. That can happen on a quantum scale. Well, a quantum state can be teleported instantaneously using protocols involving entanglement. So it's sort of scaling that up is obviously a huge task. I don't think we'll ever see macroscopic objects being teleported or anything like that there, but goodness knows what the applications of quantum teleportation are going to be, whenever, well, in the future, whenever people have had a chance to explore this in more detail.
And yeah, no, thank you, Glenn. I guess that's us. That's all we have time for. So I just want to thank you, Ryan, Glenn, and Holly, so much for answering all these questions that all the students had today. We would all learn so much from the three of you. So it's now time for break. So